Chiefs Kingdom ACU crew, welcome back to another Wednesday War Room. Steve, what's going on?
What's
Chiefs
up,
are in the
man?
Super Bowl. Have you heard?
I know, it's crazy. And the best part is it's at Arrowhead West.
It's
We
at
get to go
Arrowhead West.
practice in the facilities. We get the right Chiefs in the end zone there at Allegiant. That must suck for the Raiders, right? It's like
To watch,
before they even get to play a playoff game
Right.
in their house, the Chiefs get to put their name in the end
to
zone.
watch
in
the
Super Bowl.
NFL and the Chiefs paint the stadium red, paint the town red, literally painting the end zones red. Even for the 49ers. You know they don't like the 49ers either. The Raiders fans are in hell this week and next week. Well, they've been in hell for a few years now. So
think while they're painting the Chiefs logo into the end zone and things like that, like Max Crosby's just standing there with a little tear in his eye.
A single.
Hey, somebody's like, let the boy watch.
Let the boy watch. Let him watch.
That's great, man. No, feels good though. Everybody's getting a little buzz going, you know, people starting to talk about the Super Bowl, you know, of course. Like normally there's like this gap, you know, because it's 2 weeks and it's like it's really dead the first week and then it kind of picks up. Are you dancing?
Yeah. I'm just dancing. I'm just having a good time. You're
I was
right, though.
wondering.
We're in the early part of this. Like, so the celebration hasn't started. You know, when they start getting to the media portion, they start asking really stupid questions.
But I mean, just people talking about sports and stuff. I feel like it's up a little bit this year. People's already talking about the Super Bowl.
True.
Even in, you know, personal conversations I've had and stuff like that.
Hey, America's pumped. They're wanting the Chiefs to lose. They think the 49ers is going to be the one that does it. They think they think that's going to be the one. You know what?
They thought the Ravens were going to do it. They thought the Bills were going to do it.
Might be. But you know what? Who cares? What a hell of a ride we've had. What a ride this season's been. The downs, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, the Taylor Swifts. What in the world happened this year? Hey, Super Bowl's in the red era. Shout out Taylor. We've been in the red era now for about 5-6 years.
In the red era?
Yeah. We're in our red era.
Here?
What's happening?
People banging on my windows.
You getting robbed?
I don't know.
Steve's getting robbed right here on live TV, everyone. Oh, no.
I don't know why they would knock on my window.
We need a play-by-play of this robbery. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing on this Wednesday? I know it's short notice. Me and Steve were like, what in the world are we going to talk about today? There's nothing going on.
I'll be right back.
Steve's going to go check on the robbery. But yeah, nothing going on. So we were like, what are we talking about? And then we were like, hey, let's look at what the early bettors are doing. It's not a good sign for the Chiefs. The Chiefs love, Steve's just getting out of here. I'm just taking them off the screen. Look at this. Just me and you and me. Chiefs love being the underdogs, man. We flourish. But I have learned that the Chiefs are sucking up all the early money. For all the hate the Chiefs get, we're sucking up the early money. Everybody's decided the Chiefs are still the Chiefs, said Travis Kelce. And everybody knows. They know. You got to respect it. They know. I heard there was a $1 million bet placed on San Francisco. I think it was San Francisco to cover. Money line? Something with San Francisco. $1 million bet on the 49ers, Steve. That's what I read today. $1 million bet. Somebody placed it on the 49ers. That's the biggest money they've had.
Well, I'm glad they're good with losing $1 million. Yeah. I did see where David Portnoy from Barstool, he said that he was going to make a bet on the Chiefs, or he's thinking about $1 million bet on the Chiefs.
Is he? So, I hope not. Yeah. Every time he makes a bet, he loses.
He had $1 million placed on Michigan.
He did, but he's a Michigan homer. So what do you expect? He's a Brady, Michigan guy. Dez with the 5-month membership. Dez says if KC loses in the Super Bowl, is this season still a success? And is it still a dynasty, or does KC have to win for it to be? This season was kind of on the fence, kind of sucked here and there, everywhere, but we held patient. All the Chiefs fans held it together somewhat. And yes, it's a success. It's an overwhelming success. What a run we've had. And then is it a dynasty? It is a dynasty. It continues to be a dynasty. You do not have to win. Look, if you're going to 6 straight AFC championship games, like, aren't you a dynasty?
At this point, is there any reason to think that it's not going to continue with Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like, if Mahomes is not even 30 yet, and we've ran through this much in rebuilds, like, because every 4 to 5 years, this cap's going to start flipping back our way a little bit. And then, Lord help everyone if Andy Reid and and Mahomes plays for a while. And
Even
Kelsey, I think Kelsey can be replaced, by the way. I think that is one that if Kelsey decides to hang it up in a year or two, I think the Chiefs do well enough at drafting tight ends, and Mahomes can make a tight end look good. Like even when Noah Gray has to play, Noah Gray looks pretty serviceable.
yeah, but you're never gonna find that dominant.
Well, I get it. You're never going to have a Travis Kelsey again, but
no, but I
don't
think they
think
definitely
he's the
need to
hardest
start
thing to replace ever.
They need to start looking at that, like obviously you're not going to be able to get a Brock Bowers in the draft this year. Going to go way too high. But at what point do you start looking at someone like that? Like, hey, we need to make a move and get a guy that can be like, somewhat like Kelsey was.
Brock Bowers. Man, Brock Bowers. Do we really want a guy on our team named Brock?
He kind of sounds like a character.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like Brock Bowers. Right? Hey, man, he is good, though. No, he sounds like
he'd
be like
Noah, though.
Brock Bowers sounds like he would be kind of like a reporter in the city that everybody hates. They're like, oh, did you read the article about Brock Bowers the other day? He's an idiot. We hate Brock Bowers. No. Man, I wouldn't mind a big tight end like that, though. Boy, imagine we could have got our hands on Sam Laporta last year.
We could have.
Steve, you're getting blown up.
Am I?
What's wrong with you? Oh, wait, that's
what
me.
What are you talking about?
Let's answer this live on air.
How are you going to blame me for it? It's your
Hello?
phone.
I'm live. Quit calling me.
Don't ever call me again.
Buzz off. Do you get
but like I was saying
24/7, by the way?
Before we started, it's called spam, Mike. Just get a spam block. Anyway.
I have one.
Do you?
Yeah, and it doesn't work. They call from my own number sometimes. It'll say, I'm calling myself.
Before we got off on the tight end tangent, though, we were talking about the Chiefs and being a dynasty and stuff. And does it look like they're going to stop anytime soon? I mean, even if they lose the Super Bowl, Mike, or, they don't, get back to the AFC Championship game next year, per se, say everything goes that way. I still it almost seems ridiculous to think that Mahomes wouldn't be back competing almost every single year. And if they were not to ever at this point, it's still been a dynasty. I mean, these last 6 years have just been ridiculously dominated by the Chiefs to the point to where everyone in America hates them. They're sick of them.
Right.
So, I mean, like I said, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think this team's going to keep being successful. But, I mean, I think this Super Bowl would go a long way in cementing that. Like, you get the third ring, and I think people have to shut up a little bit, right?
The tight end thing. We looked into Noah Gray. Is this his year that they have to re-sign him, or does he have one more under contract? Do you remember?
I can go look real quick.
I feel like this is his third year. He may have one more year.
I'm pretty sure it's his third season, so he should have.
I think he has one more. So I believe they'll look into keeping Noah Gray because I think his development's come along pretty well. But
I think Noah Gray could be a very good tight end, especially if he got the playing time, he got to start, and things like that.
Rico says, I liked Michael Mayer. He went to the worst team. Yes, I was a pretty big fan of Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. Tristan says, what do you think about Blake Bell this season? Blake Bell has been a monumental just nothing burger this year.
I mean, just does what Blake Bell does. He blocks.
Hardly. Yeah, he's just a blocking guy.
No, but Noah Gray does have one more year left on his contract. There were some good tight ends in this draft, last year's draft. I know we all liked Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, and Sam Laporta. We had our chances at Sam Laporta and passed on that for Felix, which is
that's crazy.
Sickening.
If we'd have took Sam Laporta right there instead of Felix, look. But in 5 years, if Felix comes on and is awesome, we're all going to be saying the same thing. Like, well, another good hit by
right.
Beach.
I mean, it's hard to say, but right now, early on, it's like, man, what a whiff that was. But
I don't know if anybody coming out of this class reminds me of Travis Kelsey. Sam Laporta had that vibe. He really did.
Still does, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but I'm just saying, out of that, him, and I actually thought Luke Musgraves out of Oregon State looked pretty good. If you remember, I had him as a second round kind of guy, and he actually looked pretty good too. So I'm telling you, Veach has to let me and you get in the war room with him and start telling them about these guys we're seeing. Veach is doing himself an incredible disservice.
Right after we win the Super Bowl, we're going to start digging into the draft, so we'll have to give him a heads up.
Yeah,
maybe we can go take him out. He can treat us to some Jack Stack barbecue, or maybe we'll just get some pizza and we'll just hang out. We'll invite Andy. and we'll talk about this kind of stuff. But our boy Roberto in the house with the 2 bomb. Appreciate you, Roberto. How you doing, my man? He says, I'm late, but I'm here now. What's up? Nothing, just talking some Chiefs. Pretty much. No big news going on at all. There's not really any news. The biggest news in the with the Chiefs right now is Patrick Mahomes has a belly.
Shirtless. And look, he don't even look that bad. Like, what do you think Patrick Mahomes was going to look like? Like, he's not a freaking gladiator. Do you think he was going to pull it off and he was going to have like a 6-pack? Like, even more. He was going to have like an 8-pack and like be buff. Like, quarterbacks don't look like that, bro. They play golf in the off season. Who do they think these people are?
I don't know. It's kind of stupid. But yeah, that's the storyline right now. That's it. That, and they're still talking about Justin Tucker and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Of course, that got revisited on New Heights, where Kelce talked about it. It also got revisited on the Pat McAfee show today, where Kelce was on. Patrick Mahomes poked his head in, and the first thing that McAfee said was, "Hey, Justin Tucker was going to kick your ass." So yeah, that's pretty much all that's in the news. As right now, it's still quiet about like the game. Like, you're not getting a whole lot of like preview of the game yet. So yeah, not a whole lot going on. But now's a good time to talk about random things. Like we've had such a great season so far, so we can reflect on that. We can reflect on the awesome playoff run so far. We can look a little bit forward to the Super Bowl, but we can also look a little past that as well. Like we were talking about tight ends. Do you think that tight end might be a target for the Chiefs in the upcoming draft, or maybe the year after? I think they do rely heavily on Noah Gray to be the successor to Travis Kelce, but right. I don't know if they are 100% sold on him being a game-wrecking player. So I think they still might take a stab at another tight end. Do you think that might be this year, Mike, or do you think it might be later on?
It is possible. It is possible. I believe they should have done it last year. I honestly believe having the chance to grab a Sam Laporte at the end of the first round just made a lot of sense.
For sure.
They may look to free agency as well. That could be a thing, because I'm going to say this is the last year Blake Bell's going to be here. He's not going to be back anymore. Jody Fortson, I think that whole experiment may have came to an end as well. Are the Chiefs going to be able to go sign a Dalton Schultz or a Hunter Henry in the offseason? I don't know if they can do that. Are they going to be able to get a Noah Fant in the offseason? I don't know, and I don't think Noah Fant would even want to come here unless he was guaranteed number one. So where does that leave them? Mike Gesicki is available, Steve. You love Mike Gesicki. Maybe the Chiefs have a second crack at him this year. That could be something.
I think he is a bit of a diamond in the rough. Like, I feel like that guy had huge potential, and I think he probably still does. I mean, he was running a 4.4 in college. He's a big dude, catches everything. He didn't do a whole lot with the Dolphins, and he didn't do very much anything with the Patriots. But I think that's the type of guy you could probably get here and make something out of in this offense for sure. I think Patrick Mahomes could definitely revive that guy's career and push him over the top. And then coming out of the draft, man, there's only I want to say maybe one other tight end that even slightly has grabbed my eye, and that's the kid from Texas. I can't remember his name.
We're talking about this year coming out?
Yeah, it's slipping my mind.
Jatavion Sanders.
Jatavion Sanders, that's it. Brock Bowers, obviously, and then Jatavion Sanders. There's some other guys out there, but none of them are really sticking out to me yet. But I have not got to dig into tape a lot. I don't watch college football as much as I should. So usually around draft time, I really have to dig in to get to learn these players and see what I like, who I like. And that's the next step coming up in our cycle, Mike. Like, we got the Super Bowl coming up, and after we celebrate that bad boy, we move on.
You learn that a lot of college offenses do not feature tight ends very well. It's hard to gauge a good tight end. I mean, let's just look at this. I brought this one up. Brock Bowers gets featured. Jatavion Sanders gets featured. But look, I would say Jatavion Sanders is the second best tight end coming out of the class. Yeah. And the dude for the whole season had 45 receptions and 2 touchdowns.
It's not impressive.
They just don't throw. They don't feature tight ends in offenses. It's weird, and they just don't do it. But we'll talk about more of the draft coming up. JCP says, any Kadarius news? The last thing I heard was that Andy Reid said that they did not make him an injury. He has an injury. That's the last thing I heard, and that whatever. He's not off the team. He's not whatever. It's going to be a he said, she said, and it's a he said, unless Kadarius Toney's the
weird.
she in the situation.
It's weird. We live in a day and age where that might not have been Kadarius Toney. By all means, I mean, you can AI anything. So
something happened this morning. Something happened this morning, caught my attention, woke me up at 7-something in the morning, which would have been 6-something in the morning, KC. An alert come through my phone from Instagram that said Kadarius Toney went live on Instagram.
Yeah, that's what he did when he did all this stuff. He keeps reactivating.
But it only went
account.
live for 2 minutes, and by the time I could click on it, it was already gone. So I wondered if somebody's tampering with his stuff, like if somebody inside of his stuff that he doesn't know about, or you know what I'm trying to say. Or
it's really odd. It's either him just being crazy, or it's that, because I mean, what happens is I think that his Instagram account's actually deactivated. He keeps reactivating it, going live, ranting, then immediately deactivating things again. And it does sound like him, and I mean, it very well could be him. Chances are it is.
Kadarius Toney is like Antonio Brown without the CTE at this point. Like, what's wrong with him?
Yeah, he hasn't played enough to get CTE, so maybe he's just crazy.
Maybe he's got can you get CTE from sitting on your butt? Like from the injury report? I don't know. Speaking of injury report, somebody asked about this. Oh, Alicia. She said, what do you think about the injury report that came out? Yeah, there's a lot of people on the injury report, but it did say that Willie Gay is limited practice. And the one that caught my attention was Chris Jones, the quad. It said he did not practice. Otherwise, It was Pacheco with the same kind of stuff. There's going to be I think Chris Jones will be definitely going to play. He's going to play.
Right.
I honestly think Willie Gay gets back and plays too. I don't see any big injuries for the Chiefs right now, except for Tooney. That's the one I'd watch.
Tooney's got to get back. I don't know if he will or not. Maybe. But, I mean, Omenihu being out, that's the biggest thing probably. Allegretti played great in the absence of Joe Tooney. Like, I don't feel bad at all with that.
Didn't PFF rate Nick Allegretti our top lineman of the week? Pass blocking or run blocking? It was one nuts.
Of them. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you've seen the clip, but I think it's like a mic'd up Patrick Mahomes, and he even has to yell at Allegretti, basically to have composure. He was like, I want you to finish your block, but we dominate between the whistles, because Allegretti was just out there having a field day. Like, they absolutely wrecked the Ravens. The whole offensive line just had a field day, man. It was good to see, especially after, especially with the linebackers. I love that we really leveled their linebackers, because Roquan Smith was running his mouth quite a bit, and it was just good to see. We got a 2-bomb from Dez Jim here.
Dez.
It says 2026 will be a strong free agent class for tight ends. I'm kind of interested to see who all would become free agents.
2026, huh? That's a long time away, though.
Yeah, it's two seasons. I think Kelsey's probably going to play at least 2 more. I don't see him retiring like everybody else does this year. He's already said he's not going to. I just don't think he will. Regardless of whether they win or lose the Super Bowl, I still think he's back next year.
Right.
But how many more years do you think Kelsey's going to be the starting tight end for the Chiefs?
I honestly, look, if Kelsey wants to play and he wants to keep his body right and he wants to focus on football, which right now nothing tells me he don't. I do know he's got a lot going on off the field and this and that, but you got to remember he's a professional too. Just because they play sports don't mean that they don't have a life outside of their job, which is football. Like, we all go to work and we all have things we do. You know what I'm saying? It's like when everybody's like, the president plays golf, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, what's he supposed to do? Just be presidential 24/7? Like, he's supposed to read a book. He's got to read a book and call Russia or something. Who knows? But no, they're allowed to do things. So, I don't think anything he does is super crazy extracurricular. Like, he finds a way to do his podcast. He finds ways to do whatever he's got to do. So I could see Kelsey playing another 2 years at a high level, to be honest.
What do you think?
He may start declining a little bit, but it's not going to be noticeable.
What do you think's more likely? Kelsey plays for 5 more years, or our president can actually read a book?
I'll pass on that one. I do think nobody in America reads books these days. That's why everybody's an idiot. Okay. Have
Gotta
you
pick the
seen the
books back
comments?
up,
Have you
fellas.
seen the comments we've got from Baltimore fans all week? Do you think any of them's opened a book? You think any of them can even spell their name? Julia Gulia says, we will address the tackle position in the draft or free agency again. Julia, that is a good question, actually, because I
Yeah.
still think you should do it through the draft. And I honestly believe Anton Harrison was at the top of our list and we just couldn't snag him. I still
Well,
believe that.
I know injury changed things, but you think they're not going to keep continuing to pursue Wanye Morris? Because I feel like he did a pretty decent job when he was in
Wanye's
there. There's
fine,
definitely
but Wanye can't do
there's
it
some work
all.
to do.
Do you think
Exactly,
Wanye's
but
going to be the starting left tackle, though?
I think they should target a left tackle and put Wanye at the right. And Juwan
you-
Taylor.
What are you doing, Juwan Taylor?
Well, that's the thing. He's got one more year with us, regardless. I think there's an out after 2 years in his contract, if I'm remembering right. So, I mean, we at least got Juwan Taylor for one more
Right.
year. I'd be completely
Look.
fine, honestly, with Wanye being over there on the left side next year. The way if the 2 or 3 game sample size we got is any, whatever, if that's what
Yeah.
we're going to see, if he can continue that, then I'm okay with it.
Look.
I think you got to let the young guys get in there and get their hands dirty anyway to improve and be able to take over that position.
So I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but do you guys remember back in the offseason when Joe Tooney restructured that contract? Like right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
We're seeing Joe Tooney right now. Okay, look, you see Nick Allegretti step in and do a good job. You're seeing Trey Smith may or may not be here after this year, next year, when he starts coming up, because he's going to come up at the same time that you have Nick Bolton and all these other guys. So it depends. We've got Mike Caliendo on the practice squad. They have still kept Darian Kennard all year long, and it looks like he's going to be a guard. I honestly believe Wanye should probably kick down in the guard over a left tackle, even though I do believe he could play left tackle. I've seen enough glimpses that I do think he could get there. It just may take a little longer than they want to wait to be that great at it. But I was kind of looking, and if you look back at the way they restructured Tooney, his potential out is this offseason. Well, now, why did they do that? His potential out's 2024. He would only take a $21.9 million dead cap, and that sounds crazy. It really does, and so they may not do it. But people's give up dead cap way worse than that to get out of a contract, because technically he's going to be owed 26.9. So they would save $7 or $8 million to get rid of Tooney this year. And so if you was to kick Wanye down in the left or let Mike Caliendo come in and maybe Wanye goes to right and maybe they can't.
What happened to Nick
sign.
Allegretti?
What's what I'm saying. So you got Allegretti too, but Allegretti I think's under just a 1 year.
I think he's not going to cost anywhere near what.
No,
Joe
but you could
Tooney
also
would.
kick Wanye down, and you're going to have Caliendo and Kennard as well, because you may have to lose Trey Smith as well. There's no telling what Brett Veach is going to do. I do not envy what he has to make decisions about this offseason, because it is going to be crazy.
Right, for sure. And I mean, that's the thing. People got to really hold onto their seat, because he's going to have to make some big decisions, and something like Trey Smith not being back, that would suck so bad, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. There's a lot of weird things that are going to happen. I mean, he's got to re-sign Chris Jones. A lot of people want LeJerry Sneed to be re-signed. I mean, there's just so much going on. Linebacker.
I was reading some stuff today, and I don't know how like credible it is, but a lot of people around Chris Jones said they're getting the vibe from Chris Jones that this is like his going away party in KC. Like, he's glad he's going to play his last game in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. He feels like the Chiefs are not going to work with him to give him the contract he wants. And look, if it was any indication what Brett Veach did last year, Brett Veach didn't budge. He put everything contract incentive, and guess what? Chris Jones went out and got every bit of it. So I don't know. When people say Chris Jones just don't have it anymore, I think you're out of your mind.
No, I think if you're on that side of the fence, then you're just being unrealistic, because I think Chris Jones is what makes our defense what it is in one way or another. Got our boy Enrique here with the 10 bomb. He says, let's freaking go. Our boys are here. Miami being favorite against us was an absolute joke. Bill's favorite was plain blindness. Ravens favorite was legit, but wrong. How come we're not favorites against the Niners? Well, yeah, what's the explanation for that, though? I honestly felt like maybe the Chiefs would have been a favorite after the games they just went through, and the Niners the way they'd been struggling. But did they just stick to by? Oh well, they were a 1 seed. They had a better record in the season. Like what's playing into this?
Honestly, Vegas and just people determine this. So
Right.
I think they just look at the betting lines and they look at the different things. And I mean, to be honest, for the last 6 playoff games the Chiefs have played, I'm pretty sure they've been an underdog in 5 of the 6. So people still don't want to give the Chiefs their flowers or whatever else, but at the same time, the Chiefs, they use that as fuel. So I don't technically mind it. It's not that Patrick, it's not like they're just like, oh, we're the underdog, let's go to sleep and not play. So they don't use that at all. So that's a good question, Enrique. Thanks for the 10 bomb, but I have no idea. I just feel like it's just something to do with Vegas. It's something to do with the way the betting and the betting history. I would be, look, if somebody's making that call and you're betting against Patrick Mahomes and that's just a single person making this call and not like a whole entire, world of betting and money and numbers that you can't control, I would call you an idiot to ever bet against Patrick Mahomes at this point.
They go slap nut.
Yeah, you just be a slap nut. So appreciate the 10 bomb, Enrique. Put some legendaries, some ketchup in the chat for him. Our boy Flapjack City Steve with a 5 bomb.
Let's go.
He says, let's go get JJ what?
JJ, is he even available to play? Like, he's like, what, 62?
I don't think he's officially retired, though, has he?
No, I was kind of wondering about that. Did he retire? He's been doing the commentating, like, or analyst or whatever they want to call it. Right. I don't know. I don't know about that. I've seen a lot of people talking about, why don't we go get the shark for the Super Bowl here, because Omenihu being out, that's not going to happen. There's no way that you're going to go get a guy that hasn't played all season long, basically, and just slop him in the Super Bowl and hope he does well.
Right, I'm hearing all kinds of stuff with that. I just don't see it. If you look at the free agency market for the defensive ends, because maybe you have to go get a defensive end on the free agency market. Who knows? Maybe you lose Mike Dana and you have to replace him. I believe if you lose Mike Dana being 26 years old, you don't pay big money. Yeah, but I don't think you pay big money. I think you do it through youth. Because to be honest, Danielle Hunter's the number 1 guy out there at 29 years old. So him and Van Ginkel are 1 and 2, and they're both 29. Your next one on the board is Chase Young at 25. But I mean, I'm pretty sure San Francisco's they made a trade for him. I'm sure they're going to do something to keep him. And after that, it's just a bunch of old guys, dude. Jadeveon Clowney, 31, who nobody even wanted to pick up this season. Calais Campbell, 38. Zadarius Smith, 32. Brandon Graham, 36. Danico Autry from the Titans, 34. Now, I don't mind the kid that played at Iowa and plays with Buffalo now, AJ Espinosa. That might not be a bad little sneaky acquisition in the offseason, but I would say Espinosa is going to pick up a pretty good contract somewhere, in my opinion.
Right. We got Scott Crosser here. He says, Mike, Steve, I would like to see you go over the free agent thing Broshmo put out a few days ago. Shout out our boy Broshmo. He says it lists free agents and estimates the contracts. It had Dana getting 4 years at $70 million.
Wow.
That's interesting. Dana has definitely been an underrated guy, but I don't see anyone paying him that much. I mean, do you?
I think that's a little steep. I do think it's a little steep.
Do I think he's worth it? Potentially. Mike Dana's been an absolute monster, and he's definitely one of the most underrated guys on our defense. But I don't know. That seems a little steep to me, Scott.
God, I don't even know. Let me think. Carl Lawson. You guys remember Carl Lawson? Played for the Bills. When he was signed, he was the same age as Dana, pretty much, like on his second big contract. He made 3 years, $45 million. Okay, Montez Sweat signed 4 years, $98. So you're telling me that Montez Sweat's going to go 4 years, $98, and he's going to get 3 years, 70 something? I don't see that happening. I would think his market value sits somewhere around $14 million to $16 million tops. And I think that's just a big number. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, if he didn't sign eventually at the end of it for somewhere around 12 and a half to 14, somewhere in that. So if somebody signed him for, say, 3 years, 36 million, I wouldn't be about. Isn't it crazy though how we drafted a kid named Mike Dana from Michigan that nobody knew about. He only played like 1 year at Michigan from a transfer. But yet he's come in and worked his butt off with the Chiefs. We've developed him into somebody that we're talking about giving 4 years, $70 million to. That is freaking insane, dude.
That's wild. I don't know, man. I don't see it.
I feel like that's a little too rich. I will have to go through. I want to go through that video, Scott. Thanks for the question. Yeah, we're big friends with Broshmo. More than likely, he may be on this year again for another draft. We do one with him every year. It's been 2 years running now, so we'll try to get on there with him again this year and do some draft stuff. Mike Dana actually picked who did he? Or not Mike Dana. Broshmo actually picked somebody to the Chiefs, and everybody lost their mind on him. And then we actually drafted him.
Oh, who we actually drafted?
He did draft DeJuan Jones, though.
That was Keandre Coburn.
Yep, he picked Keandre Coburn, and everybody was kind of like, yeah. But he drafted DeJuan Jones, and everybody said that was a bad pick. And DeJuan Jones actually played pretty good football in Cleveland. We could have used the DeJuan Jones this year, as bad as some of our tackles have played.
We'll be good without that. I'm good without that pick. Our boy Chad here says you didn't draft a defensive end in the first round this year to care about Mike Dana leaving. Let Dana go make some money somewhere else.
I think that might be what.
100%, man. Whether Felix pans out or not, like that's the basket you chose to place your eggs in. So that's where you need to go with it, right? I kind of agree with Chad, especially if he's going to garner anything close to $17+ million a year.
I still think
you just have to let him go,
dude. I think Dana will run to the bank if somebody gives him $13 million per. I don't see you getting. I think right now he's signed an entire 4-year deal for like $3.5 million or something around that number.
Right, that's big time money for him. It's insane.
So yeah, if he can double that and then get a 4-year contract out of it, he's going to take that all day. But I just don't see the Chiefs being able to do that. I don't. They cannot do that with 24, 25 players they have to sign. And Steve, what do you think? With 24 to 25, we have to bring in and fill the roster with. Of course, we've got some already in the system per se. It's not like the minor league baseball system, but we've got the practice squad. We've got guys like Mike Caliendo and guys like, we had Cam Jones and Isaiah Moore. We've kept around the facilities. Big time linebacker Isaiah Moore. I liked Isaiah Moore. I thought he was a dark horse to make the team. So if you think Willie Gay or somebody like that was to leave, you may just start bringing up guys like that rather than going to the draft. But you're not going to sign 25 free agents. You can't do it. You're going to sign maybe 5 or 6 or 7. Then you're going to re-sign a few of your own, 5, 6, 7. And then you're going to have to do about 7 draft picks. And that's going to be how this team's going to have to be made up.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We got to see a couple people talking about Kyle Pitts in chat. We got Jacob here. He says Kyle Pitts for a first, third, and Tony, which is, I don't know. I think they'd rather have a 7th round draft pick than Tony at this point. But then we also had Daniel here. He says, hey, guys, got to ask, do the Chiefs trade for tight end Kyle Pitts to pair him up with Kelsey or draft a tight end? And if we lose Chris Jones, do we try to get a defensive end like Hunter or Sweat or draft a defensive end? So to answer the first part of your question, and also Jacob, Kyle Pitts, I think an athlete like Kyle Pitts with that high of a ceiling in an Andy Reid offense with Patrick Mahomes has potential to be a game-wrecking guy. I do. Do I think the Chiefs go after him? Highly doubt it. Like, he's going to garner a big price tag. And
the Falcons aren't letting Kyle Pitts go.
I don't think they would either. I just don't know why they would. They're getting to the point to where they're trying to compete now and get back into winning that division and stuff. So,
well, Steve, if you took over, if you were hired as their head coach, are you trading Kyle Pitts?
I don't know, man. It depends. If they were to come at me with a first and like a couple draft picks, I would consider it. It just depends because
so if you're Brett Veach, would you trade a first and a couple draft picks extra to get Kyle Pitts?
I don't think I can do that for a tight end. I don't. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just don't think the Chiefs would be up. I'm not opposed to Kyle Pitts in the Chiefs offense. I think it would be ridiculous, but I just don't think there's a way they could make that happen in reality. I don't. And I'm guessing you're right there with me on that, Mike.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think Kyle Pitts was floated around this season by a bunch of like random, chief insiders that had
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
inside sources, and then it just got everybody fired up on it. And that's a pipe
Right.
dream.
So I do like the second question by Daniel, though, Mike, and this is a concern of mine. If they get to the point where they feel like they're not going to pay Chris Jones, how the hell do you compensate for that? Like, what do you do to take, like, if you basically, that's like, it's like taking 3 wheels off your car and rolling them down the road and then expecting to keep moving along the way you were.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you replace him? Like, what do you do? If you go that route, if Brett Veach is ballsy enough to go that route, which don't think he won't try it because Brett Veach has been known to do some things like this. How do you even compensate for that? Obviously, you can't replace him. But what do you even do? Do you go after? I don't even understand. I don't think we go after any defensive ends though, because I feel like we're kind of like oversaturated with defensive ends at the moment. Of course, Mike Dana is going to probably be gone. Oh, Menahue was on what, a 1 or 2 year contract?
He's a 3, wasn't he?
Was it 3? So we still have him. We got Felix that's, waiting to go. We got to see what he can actually do when he gets some playing time. You got George. We have several. I don't know. What do you think they do to compensate for that? Because if you don't have Chris Jones, you're missing a lot pressure-wise.
Yeah, you're not replacing Chris Jones 1 for 1. You're not doing it.
That's
right?
impossible.
You're not doing it. So, good grief, what do you even do? I guess you can.
I'll tell you what you do. You pay the man.
Right. In my opinion, you probably have to just pay him. But technically, let's say they don't. And I am on the firm fence that you cannot tag him. They're not going to do a tag and trade. Do you think anybody's going to give up 2 first-round picks for a 31-year-old Chris Jones? I do not see that. So they know if they tag him, you're going to be out basically what, 32, 33, something like that was the crazy number, which we don't know. So if you're going to pay that, you might as well lump it together and get him for 3 years or something.
Right. There's a Jim with the 2 bomb here. He's asking about that, Mike. If they tag trade Jones, what's the value back? And this is exactly what you're talking about. So I wanted to go ahead and bring that up. Appreciate the 2, Des. But yeah, what's the value back? What will people be willing to give for Chris Jones? Chris Jones
they're not giving up 2 first-round picks.
But they're not going to do that at this age. I just don't see it.
No, I don't think they give up. Look, you'd have
Is he worth that? Like, that's the thing about it, Mike. From our perspective, from how valuable he is to the Chiefs, he's worth 2 first-round picks. But when you're another team and you're trying to acquire a 31-year-old guy that's only going to have 3, 4 more years tops, I don't know if you want to give out 2.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Here's how that this could be a possibility. I'm going to tell you a tag trade possibility. You could have Miami lose Christian Wilkins in the offseason to free agency. He's 28. He had his best season of his career. He had 9 sacks this year. Christian Wilkins is a dog. If you could replace Chris Jones for Christian Wilkins, by all means, that's a great start. That's pretty close to 1 for 1. It's not 1 for 1 because I'd take Chris Jones all day. But you're getting closer. But Christian Wilkins is going to want a lot of money. Now, he's not going to want $30 million. He's not going to get 29. He's probably going to be closer to that 26, 27 million. So maybe the Chiefs could sneak somebody like that. But let's just say they lose him in the offseason. Maybe Miami is a team that's desperate and they're right on the cusp. And if they could snag another Chief player out from underneath us for 2, Miami doesn't value draft picks, it seems. So that would be the only way that works. But that's a big gamble. That's a big gamble.
Right. Yeah. We got our boy Roberto. He says, would you pay Sneed or CJ? That's been a common question lately. In my opinion, I know that I think L'Jarius Sneed was the best corner in football this year. I know a lot of people think Deron Bland because of all the interceptions and everything. But I think it's just pure shutdown corner. L'Jarius Sneed was it. I think he's the most diverse. I can't say enough about how that guy's played.
Right.
But I think in the situation, you have to go with Chris Jones because that defensive tackle at Chris Jones level is impossible to replace. But we seem to be able to draft corners and develop them very well in Kansas City. You saw it with Charvarius Ward gone. You're going to probably see it with L'Jarius Sneed here. But I think if you looked at the play of even the younger guys like Jalen Watson and Josh Williams in this last game, like there's a bright future with the Chiefs secondary. I mean, you
Right.
still got Trent McDuffie as well. I think you got to go Jones and let Sneed go get paid somewhere else, in my opinion, because Sneed's earned every dime he's going to get.
Right. I think,
And
look,
I don't know if we can do it.
Yeah, Sneed's earned everything, but I don't know if you want to allocate what Sneed is going to bring to the cap. I don't know if you want to allocate that to a corner position in which we're pretty stacked. Now, we're not stacked at all on defensive tackle. We're just not.
Absolutely not.
Turk Wharton come off injury this year, and he played serviceable, but he did hardly anything. You're going to lose the big kid we drafted at FSU, Derek Nottie. He's going to be gone. I just don't see – I think defensive tackle is your big one. So I think you should pay CJ over Sneed. And I know that pisses a lot of people off, but that's not a knock against Sneed. That's just saying Sneed played so freaking good that we just can't afford him. I'm sorry, we just can't do it.
Right, and Chris Jones is irreplaceable.
But with that being said, that could be the first thing Brett Veach comes out and makes priority because
you never know.
He's a wild card. You never know what this guy's going to do. You ever watch the wild card episode, Steve, of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Frank and Charlie's the wild card. You never know what he's going. He might eat a rat in the alley.
Right,
Brett Veach might eat a rat outside Arrowhead Stadium. Who knows?
Pono says easy fix. Give up some contract money, Patrick. After the receivers he had to play with this year, after he gave some of his contract money, I don't think you're ever going to see that again. So good luck with that.
I think
I would never do it. I just what it is. I think after what they did with his money when he was like giving it up, I don't think Patrick's on board with all that anymore. He's probably going to do what he's got to do. But then again, he is the ultimate team player, so we'll see. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Please take a second. Just go hit that like button for us. If you're new to the channel and you love the Kansas City Chiefs, hit that subscribe button. Hang out with us more often here. Plus, we're trying to get to 25,000 subs before the end of the Super Bowl. It was 20,000 by the end of the season, which we accomplished. So we went ahead and upped it. We upped the ante. But let's make it 25. So we're going to give that a shot. So if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that. Flapjack City with a 5 bomb says, man, how are we talking draft and trades? We're going to be in the mother Super Bowl. I'm enjoying it. Ain't no GM. Still ain't no Veach. Okay. Yeah. Hey, appreciate the 5. And that's the thing. Going to be in the Super Bowl. Super pumped about that. Everybody's just talking draft right now because it's the dead week of the Super Bowl. No big news in the news cycle. Nothing really going on other than Patrick Mahomes having a dad bod and them being mad at
somehow that was the news of the day. It was Patrick Mahomes shirtless.
Yeah, not a whole lot going on. As far as the Super Bowl goes, we will talk about the Super Bowl a little bit. I think we should get back on that just a little bit before we close up today, Mike. So we'll get back to that in a minute, I'm sure. But we got a 5 bomb from Mr. Anderson here. It says if you guys had 2 picks, 1 player from any team for the offense and defense, money doesn't matter. Who would you pick and why? So just 1 player for the defense and 1 player for the offense. I see what he's saying. That's a very good question. Right off the top of my head, I'm kind of drawing a blank. But what do you think, Mike? Is there any particular player in the league that you think you just pull and put on the Chiefs right now and it makes a huge difference?
Yeah, I take Justin Jefferson all day.
Okay. What about defensive side of the ball?
Defensive side of the ball,
I go Crosby.
Yeah, give me another pass rusher. Give me Crosby. Give me, Myles Garrett's getting a little too old. I don't know if I'd want to do that one, but maybe even give me Micah Parsons right now.
Yeah.
He can maybe do the Willie Gay stuff and probably, he does it better, obviously.
I would say TJ Watt, but TJ just can't stay healthy.
Right. But yeah, that's where I would go. I mean, you would have to take those. I mean, obviously, if it was reasonable, like reasonable things, but he said money doesn't matter, but I'm just going to say reasonable. We're just not going to take the best 2 players in football. Reasonably, I would love to have Christian Kirk. I think Christian Kirk would be great in our offense. Yeah. Kind of curious to see if the kid that they went and traded would be good. Yeah, Calvin Ridley. He's a free agent this year, so maybe Calvin Ridley and even Hollywood Brown plays what we do. Now, a lot of people are going to say, "Hey, I want Mike Evans." I love Mike Evans too.
But
we don't tend to get those big guys. So Hollywood Brown sounds like somebody we'd probably go after, right? But Yeah, maybe somebody like that if I had to be reasonable about it. But yeah, it'd have to be Justin Jefferson. I think he's a game changer at the wide receiver position. And if he was with Patrick Mahomes for, say, 5 years, good Lord, who's stopping anything?
Yeah, that'd be pretty nasty. Appreciate the 5 there, man. Yeah, I don't know. That's always a fun question when it's like, oh, you can just take anybody and put them on the Chiefs. There's so many options you could take there. I mean, it's crazy. Ray, what's up, my man?
He says that I should be in the war room with Veach. Yes, I should. I don't want to be I want to be in the war room, but I don't want to make the final decision. I just want to sit down with Brett Veach and be like, look, this is who I like. This is my track record. Go with it if you want. And then he'll say, I don't want.
This is what I said last year.
He'll say, I don't want. That's what he'll say. He'll say, Tommy no like you.
Oh, Brett. He'd be like, what are you talking about? He's like, what are you talking about? That guy's going to be too good. I don't want him.
Madness Trash says, give us Christian McCaffrey. You know, I would almost at this point to see what a Bijan Robinson would do in an Andy Reid offense.
Jahmyr Gibbs, bro.
Hey, dude, we had talked about Jahmyr Gibbs as maybe even a flyer in the first round. And people said, that's crazy. We got Pacheco. And it's like, well, but you do have to have a 1-2 punch. Like, you've got to have a McKinnon guy.
2.0, baby. He's Jamal Charles 2.0.
Would he have not been a perfect McKinnon guy? Like that change of pace back? Yeah. Dude, it would have been nice.
Such a good receiving back, freak athlete, just super fast. Yeah, we thought that if he would have been hanging around there, which obviously he got taken a lot earlier than that by the Lions, but if he would have been hanging around towards the end of that first round, there's no doubt in my mind Brett Veach and Andy would have pulled the trigger on Jahmyr Gibbs for sure.
Yeah, they probably would have. Ray says, Mike and Steve, how about Berrios of the Dolphins to replace KT? He's a free agent. Braxton Berrios, Pops liked him.
Yeah,
coming this year. I think he come out of the Jets, right? They went to Miami.
Yeah.
So Pops like Braxton Berrios. I mean, he's serviceable.
Well, that's where I'm at with it, Mike. I think I've said this before. My tune hasn't changed. I don't want any more of these mid-serviceable receivers. Like, I've seen a lot of Chiefs Twitter today talking about how we would really love to have Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, those are still projects.
I don't want any more of those guys.
Right.
I don't.
I'm kind of tired of the projects.
Like, either go get a receiver that's proven themselves and that can actually help our offense, or just shut up. Like, draft more. If you want mid and you want to do a project, then draft them. I do not feel like going and signing someone like Braxton Berrios would do anything for us. Like, not even a little bit. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm on the board with if you can make the money work, grabbing one of those top guys, even some of the guys we talked about, Mike. Obviously, Mike Evans is going to be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
T. Higgins probably going to get the franchise tag more than likely. But like Hollywood Brown, I'd be on board with that. I want a guy that's been proven, not so much little project.
Right.
You know, I'm just over it.
I'm seeing people in the comments still talking about Sneed and the cap and different things. Sneed is projected, his market value is projected at 4 years, $65 million. That's an average annual of 16.3. Okay. I just cannot see. Do you guys remember when we had Charvarius Ward? And I'm not saying those are the same two players at all, because honestly, Charvarius Ward was good, but L'Jarius Sneed is head and shoulders above him.
He's better, yeah.
Charvarius Ward, we didn't want to match that contract, and he signed a 3-year, $40.5 million deal.
Well, he's been really freaking good for the 49ers,
right?
Too,
and that was an average annual at 13.5. So if we wouldn't match a 3-year, 40.5, do you think we're going to match a 4-year, $65 million on when we have, by the way, Trent McDuffie, who's ready to step over and be the number one? We have Josh Williams, who, by the way, if you look at his PFF numbers and some of his stuff, he has completely played shutdown. And
dude,
this kid is so young.
And Watson both had really great plays.
Right, Jalen Watson. We got Najee Johnson coming back from injury. We just drafted Nick Jones, who didn't even hardly get to play, but he was tearing it up in the offseason.
Yeah, Jamar Connor plays safety, but he's kind of a tweener kind of guy. He can come and play corner,
he can play that L'Jarius Sneed. And it wouldn't surprise me if Veach don't draft another one this year, because we always take a flyer on him. I just do not see us paying Sneed that big of our cap hit with 25 players to sign. And again, people's going to say, well, you want to do it with... you're wanting to do that with Chris Jones. But no, everybody's failing to understand that Chris Jones' impact, a defensive tackle's impact on a defense compared to a corner, is monumental. It really is, because those corners do a lot because of the pressure created up front. It works like that. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. You can have coverage sacks too, but they're not as common as just getting after a quarterback, making them make a tough decision. I just don't see it. Like, I would love to have L'Jarius Sneed, Steve, but I cannot find any world where Brett Veach pays him $60 million. Like, if L'Jarius Sneed says, I'll take 3 years, 40, yeah, they may do that. But would you ask Sneed to do that? That's not fair.
No, I don't think he can. I mean, you're in a position where you're coming up on your first contract. I saw where somebody asked if he could franchise tag him. No, can't get the 5th-year option on Sneed. So, no, I just think in his position, there's no way that he's going to take a sweetheart deal. I just don't see it. Like, not your first big contract in the NFL. You're going to take what you can get. Somebody's going to pay him a lot.
Okay, look, but at the same time, we're already not willing to pay Chris Jones the somewhere around what he wanted, which was right at the 28, 29 million. He said it wasn't 30. So we'll say 28, 29, because we never really got a definite answer of what they were asking for. So you're not willing to pay 28 or 29 at 30. More than likely, Brett Veach isn't going to budge on that number again. So they're going to come back to the table. And they're going to say 3, 4 Williams, 3 or 4 years at what? 26 again. Will Chris Jones take that this time? Or do you think he's like, nope, screw it. I can still go get 30 somewhere else?
I don't think anybody's going to pay him 30. I think that window's closed. I think he played with that, trying to get it. Brett Veach was way too. Honestly, I think they should have paid him last year. I think he would have went for less than 30, by the way. I just think that, like, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But I don't think he's going to get that much, no.
Right.
Roberto with the 2 bombs says Mike Evans. We need him to help develop Rasheed. That'd be a nasty combo. Could you imagine? That'd be very nice for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes had Mike Evans and Rasheed to throw to. Yeah, he's just going to be so expensive. Now, that is somebody that could take a bit of a pay cut if he wanted to come play at a competitive team. Like, obviously,
because he's late in his career.
He's had that
won a Super Bowl.
He's had that taste of success. He won a Super Bowl just a few years ago.
But
Steve, so, I mean, if he wants to go somewhere where he can win more.
Right, but that is used so commonly, and it's just not true. People do not take sweetheart deals.
No.
We hear about this all the time, and it's so rare. Scott Vansel says Josh Williams laugh. He's a role player that benefits off Sneed and McDuffie. He's not a number 2. That's insane. He's got every bit of the ability to develop into a number 2.
Yeah, that's crazy talk. I've seen a lot of
this kid come out of an HBCU college and has performed at this high of a level. And I get it. He does benefit off a lot of things. But it don't take that much to be a number 2 corner in this league.
Yeah, very, very small school guy and big gap. But, like, just go look up things about him and what people think about him and his potential. And then even like, what's his name, Baldy, that does all the game recaps. Like, he'll kind of analyze some of it. He was actually talking about Josh Williams in this last game and just about how he's long, fast, and tough, just like L'Jarius Sneed. Like, he's built the same. That's the kind of corners Veach likes to go after. I think that Josh Williams could be developed into a very, very good corner. I think he's got the speed, the length. He tackles well. I don't know. I'm high on Josh Williams. I think that they could definitely get him going.
Josh Williams out of college, Steve. We talk about this all the time. You're going to hear this a lot this year if you follow us. RAS scores, your relative athletic score, put out by Kent Lee Platt and Math Bomb. Josh Williams had a 9.43. Like, that is some of the top of the chart corners that you will see. He's at 9.57 10-yard split. He's fast. He's quick. He has great length. You can definitely develop Josh Williams. And the point is he's not had to be stepping into big roles because of L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. So, yeah, this is his 3rd year. This is when he's going to start coming on. L'Jarius Sneed didn't start playing great football until 3rd, 4th year. Right. Well, I mean, like we talked about, you're not going to come out of Fayetteville State University to the NFL and just seamlessly go in here. Like, I'm telling you, you give that kid some reps, and he has been able to get quite a bit of reps last year, and he was very good last year. He's getting them again this year. I think he's in a good spot to become a really solid starting corner. Yeah, I think it's crazy that you would sleep on Sneed like that. Or not Sneed, but Josh Williams. Yeah, because if you remember Sneed, when Sneed come out, When he come out in 2020, the dude only played 400
Dude,
snaps.
This always happens with Chiefs fans. I'm going to say that right now because let's just go back to who you were talking about before Sneed. It was Travarius Ward. Travarius Ward, everyone hated him. Chiefs Kingdom, y'all can gaslight all you want, but everyone was ready to throw him off a cliff at one point because he sucked so bad.
Yep.
He's terrible. He's losing us games. He's this and that. And then all of a sudden, he's great. He's locked down. And then he goes and gets paid by somebody else. They didn't ever do that with Sneed at the beginning, but Sneed was not hyped at the beginning the way he is now. I think it's just the same way with Joshua Williams. He's just got to have a chance to be developed like the rest
You guys,
of them.
also, I've noticed a lot of the chat and a lot of Chiefs fans actually think Sneed was a lot better than he was. Do you guys not remember that Sneed led the team in missed tackles almost every season he's been here, but this year?
And penalties.
He pretty much led the team.
He'd be leading again,
he also, just last year, led the NFL in reception percentage. When they threw to him, he led up the highest number of reception percentage in the entire league. Like this year, he's turned into shutdown.
Dominant.
But the last few years, he was better than average, but he was nowhere near what he is this year. He made his money this year.
Well, the point is, you see a progression with the cornerbacks that the Chiefs get. Like the only one that's going to come out day one and do anything was going to be Trent McDuffie. And that's what you get when you spend a first-round draft pick on a guy. He was one of 3 corners in that draft that were just absolutely ridiculous. And that was Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, and him. That was pretty much it. Was it Stingley? Was Stingley that draft?
Derek Stingley, yeah.
Yeah, Stingley, I think that was.
Look, he actually has played better than I thought he was. I kind of thought he was just going to be a guy that was going to sit there and milk the money.
He's also an injury-prone guy, too. He stays hurt a lot.
Brian Parrott liked Rashad Fenton, if I remember correctly. He was a huge.
Yeah, he's a little too handsy.
He was a huge Rashad Fenton guy, I believe.
But I think, I know Brian Parrott really liked him. That was like his main guy.
Yeah, he would like message us every other day and be like, "Dude, Rashad Fenton, we got to keep him.
If we could just get Rashad Fenton back,
Yeah, we should trade Sneed, leave Rashad Fenton." He was wild like that, dude. But yeah. It is what it is. I'm kind of tired of talking about like corners, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. They just develop in Kansas City. Okay, you get these young corners, you get them at good value. That's what happened with L'Jarius Sneed. I think we're going to do the same thing with Joshua Williams,
right? It's Brett Veach,
and so on and so on.
This is the MO. They don't pay. They don't spend a lot of their salary chunk on corner. That is a position that's serviceable. You can draft them, you can develop them, and we're going to have.
If you guys like talking about the draft and you guys like draft content, then get ready for it. We're going to have a lot of it coming up after the Super Bowl. Really got to get in, dive deep, and do our thing. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and also at patreon.com/allchieftdup. It's $10 a month to be a member over there. But we are going to be releasing a ton of draft content over on Patreon. So if that's kind of stuff you like, definitely go become a member over there. But Mike, let's get back on the Super Bowl, man. We're literally going to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about that for a little while before we get out of here today. 2-bomb from Dez saying thoughts on the Super Bowl matchup. What are KC's advantages?
Ooh.
So right off the bat, Mike, what advantages does KC have in this matchup?
Well, I would say we have an advantage over their corners. But then that puts a lot of pressure on our receivers, who are actually our worst position. So does that even out? We'll have to see. But yeah, I do think their corners are kind of suspect. I think their entire defense didn't look all that great versus the Lions. That could be a one-off, but technically I just don't feel like they were as dominant this year as they have been in the past. I think the Chiefs can score points. If Andy and them come out and develop a nice little game plan, kind of similar to what we did against the Ravens. I don't think you have to be flashy and crazy. I think if Andy and them kind of lean in a little bit to the defense, to Pacheco, to just matriculating the ball down the field a little bit, I do believe that you can beat the 49ers. And dare I say, I believe we can bully San Francisco the same way, because they were absolutely bullied by the Ravens during that matchup, and we made the Ravens cry like a bunch of little sissies.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Well, I was asked this question the other day, Mike. We talked about this. I was on a radio show. It was like a New Zealand radio show, sports breakfast, Big Sky Sports Breakfast. It was with
Say
Israel
that 5
Dag.
times fast.
Israel Dag, I guess he is a rugby player, a big time rugby player, but that's his thing. He wanted us to come on and talk about the Chiefs, the Ravens matchup, and a little bit about the San Francisco 49ers. So I jumped on there, and that's the first question they asked me when we started talking about it. They're just like, how do the Chiefs win the Super Bowl? How do they beat the San Francisco 49ers? What do you think? And I think I'm going to, unless something just completely changes in my mind over the next week and a half, I think I'm going to stick on the same thing. The main thing is, appreciate the 2-bomb, by the way, Des. But the main thing to me is I think they have to keep the intensity that they've had throughout the playoffs. They have to have that chip on their shoulder. They have to come out intense. They have to bully people the way they've been doing it. No different in the Super Bowl. Come out and do the same thing to the 49ers. Have to keep that intensity up. That's the main thing. I think the second thing is stop Christian McCaffrey. We were able to stop the highest rushing team in football to the point to where they only ran the ball 6 times, Mike.
Right.
And if you watch game tape from the Ravens game, it is unbelievable how good our linebackers were. I'm talking Drew Tranquil was just lights out. Nick Bolton, amazing. Leo Chanel making plays. Like, our linebackers were amazing. So I think we just have to do that same type of deal. Make it to where Brock Purdy has to throw. Put the ball in Purdy's hand and be like, hey, if Brock Purdy beats us, then so be it. But I don't see Brock Purdy beating Legere Sneed, Trent McDuffie. I just don't. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I think intensity is the main thing. Definitely have to have that. Bully them around, be physical, and stop that run game with Christian McCaffrey. That's where I'm at.
Do you have any concern? Do you have any concern about stopping Nick Bosa? Because he's going to be lined up over Donovan Smith, who we know can give up pressures. Jawan Taylor's had a little bit of problem with some speed rushers this year. Not as much as what we were used to, believe me. But yeah, do you think Nick Bosa is a problem, or do you think that they'll?
Nick Bosa is always a problem. I think there's no difference between Nick Bosa than when you're playing the Raiders, you're playing Max Crosby, or you're playing the Lions, you're playing Aiden Hutchinson. Nick Bosa is arguably the best one in the entire league, edge rusher, is he not? So you know what you're up against, and he's not going to be lining up across from Jawan Taylor. I almost guarantee you he's going to stay on that one side. I don't know if he floats back and forth or if he's always heavily on one side of the field. I'd have to watch more tape on the 49ers first. Right. But I guarantee you he's going to be matched up straight across from Donovan Smith, who is the older, slower tackle that we have. Right? So, I mean, he's going to have his work cut out for him. I think that you're going to see a lot of help there. I think Pacheco is going to have to step up in that department and probably use Clyde for it too. I did see Clyde miss a lot of blocks the other day, though. That's one thing on Clyde I didn't like in the Ravens game. But yeah, man, that's definitely an issue. It's definitely an issue. It's something you have to focus on. You have to stop him. You can't have him wrecking our backfield the entire game. You just can't do it.
Yeah, Clyde was missing some pass protection blocks, but the Ravens were doing a good job of disguising what they were doing, where they were coming from. Right. But I'll say Chris Wright with a 15. Let's go, Chris.
Chris Wright,
he says, "Hear me out. Trade 32 to Atlanta for Pitts. Last 32 picks. CEH, FAU. Give Pitts a year or two with 87. Pass baton. Let's go." We're going to put a hurting on the 49ers. 49ers, it won't even be Purdy. I broke something, by the way.
Chris, appreciate the 15 first and foremost. Yeah. You're a legend, man. Put some legendaries in the chat for him. We talked about this earlier, man. I don't think that the Falcons will give him up. I just don't. I think they're trying to rebuild, and they're going to have to do something about quarterback, though. But I think they're in a position in the draft this year to where they can look at that. I don't think Desmond Ritter's the answer.
Right.
So I think they've got to figure that part out. But I think having a piece like Kyle Pitts, someone with a ceiling like that'll help a young quarterback. Give him a safety blanket. So I don't know if they'll be willing to do it. Would I trade pick number 32 for Kyle Pitts? Yeah, I think I would. It wouldn't be at the top of my list, but if that happened, I would not be mad at it.
Would they
Kyle,
wouldn't
Kyle
trade
Pitts in
him?
the Andy Reid offense.
They're not going to trade him They're not going to trade him for 32 straight up.
That's what I'm saying. What was he, like the number 3 pick in the draft or something?
Yeah, he was
like
a top 5 pick. Or he might have been 7. He was somewhere in that range. But anyway,
maybe he did fall a little bit, I think, if I remember.
I just don't see it. You'd have to give up multiple 32s. And I still don't know. Who did they hire as their head coach? Raheem Morris? I think so.
Yeah, what a weird hire.
They've got Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator. Do you think Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson are going to come in and be like, hey, let's get rid of our biggest offensive weapon besides Drake London and Bijan Robinson? No, that is going to be a selling point for them to get a good quarterback to come in there if they go that route, in my opinion. So I just cannot see it. I cannot see them giving him up. I just can't do it, especially if they think that they're close.
The question, I guess, hypothetically, they would do it. Mike, you're down for it?
For
would
what?
You do that? 32 for Pitts.
Both 32, like for 2 years in a row or something?
Just even one.
Well, for one, yeah. But they're not going to do that.
Okay, but I was just saying hypothetically, that's not what you do, because that's what he asked here. 32 for Pitts.
Well,
but he was just making the point that the last 2 times that we've had that pick, that we've got CEH and Felix.
But yeah, they're going to want, I mean, at 32 and even trading the Chiefs, they're going to know even next year they're going to get 2 32s. Or at least, 2 27s and worse. So I don't know. I don't think they make that. I don't know how certain Chiefs people just got everybody on Kyle Pitts, like very narrowed on Kyle Pitts.
I think it's because he's an underutilized talent. Like, you got a guy with a ceiling so high you can't see it, and he's over there on the Falcons just getting wasted away. So I think people see that and they're just like, man, because I think he could be
right. But they did start using him towards the end of the year. So I mean,
they're going to use him. Yeah, they're definitely going to. Like, I'm with you. I think if you have Bijan Robinson, potentially the best running back in the league as far as like newcomers, or the potential to be anyway. You got like him and Jahmyr Gibbs. Then you got Drake London, who's a very top-notch receiver, and then you have the best young tight end as well. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, I just don't see a new coaching staff giving that up, in my opinion. Thanks for the 15, though, Chris. Appreciate you, brother. Brian Parrott says, anybody getting Belichick? Belichick has, I think, according to Vegas, a 4% chance of coaching in the NFL this year at this point.
Isn't that strange? How do you go from being the, everyone calls him the GOAT. Like, don't even argue with it. You can't even say Andy Reid's better than him. Bill Belichick's obviously the GOAT. And he can't even get a coaching job. How's that happen? And then you got people like Raheem Morris getting a coaching job in Atlanta.
I don't know. I feel like with Belichick, you have to give up a lot. So, for example, he's going to want a touch of the front office. He's going to want some player personnel. He's going to want a lot of things. And I feel like with young coaches like Raheem Morris, they basically come in and they're just fighting for their head coaching job, and they're not trying to stick their nose in the front office situation. Also, Belichick could be holding out for something different. I read a report today that they think that he may, and this was also something weird. Isn't it odd that the Raiders didn't go after him, considering Brady is some kind of a weird like holder within the Raiders now? I kind of thought they would have kind of looked at Belichick.
I think that was the smartest thing the Raiders have done in a long time, though, is go ahead and keep Antonio Pierce.
Yeah, so how crazy would that have been if he would have come to the Raiders, though, and then Brady would have come out of retirement? Right. I'm surprised. I read a report today that Belichick said he may go to Michigan. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, by the way, because Michigan already hired a head coach.
Very strange.
So why would it? But even without Michigan hiring a head coach, because that was obsolete, why would Belichick go back to college, bro? He didn't struggle in the NFL.
The coaching carousel this year has been very strange to me. I feel like there's been some odd picks for coaches. I think Pete Carroll's still out there too. Of course, he's old as dirt, but
they all are at this point.
Vrabel's not anywhere yet. Like, Mike McDonald just took the head coaching job at Seattle, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. So, I mean, that was a weird hire. I think the Raheem Morris was a weird hire. I'm very confused with that.
I thought you were talking about that dude that sang Sultry. I can't forget that guy, Mike McDonald.
Isn't that his name? Isn't that the defensive coordinator for the Ravens that
It
just
is,
signed
but you
with
know the
the
guy I'm talking
Seahawks?
about? The guy says, I keep forgetting. Is it that not
Nope.
Mike McDonald, though?
No idea what you're talking about, sir.
Steve, you're showing your age. The chat's going to light you up for that one.
I'm sorry.
You got to know who Mike McDonald is. Is it even Mike McDonald? Am
I don't even
thinking
know
of
what you're
somebody
talking about.
different? Am I thinking of a different one?
Brian Parrott's still talking about the coaches. Says y'all think Washington would take him on and screw Eric Bieniemy again. That was the first team I said that Belichick would go to is Washington, Brian. I don't know how that's panning out now. They had talked about Cliff Kingsbury for a minute, but I don't know what happened there. I think now they're talking about him going to Chicago or something for offensive coordinator. I'm not for sure. So I really don't know what they're doing. EB did get the interview for the job. I haven't heard anything, though. I think it'd be a good hire for them. Go ahead and keep EB. But the players there don't seem to care for him that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they don't care for Eric Bieniemy, do you think they're going to care for Bill Belichick?
No, they don't. I think the Bill Belichick kind of coaches, but to be honest, I actually think Dan Campbell kind of has that vibe to him, and the Lions bought in. Does it take a coach like that to actually turn stuff around? Because you can't go into a new place like
I'll tell you the vibe I got from Dan Campbell.
just being a marooch and acting like you can just let people run the roost. Like it's not going to happen. You got to have a Dan Campbell that comes in there and changes the culture a little bit.
Well, let me tell you the vibe I got from Dan Campbell from the get-go. Mike, I've told you this, and I've told you it all year. I'm not sold on Dan Campbell because I sense a little bit of Brendan Staley in him. And how did they lose their entire season?
Yeah, I get it, but I mean, he's done a good job in Detroit turning that around.
Yeah, fantastic job, but you can't make poor decisions like that and expect to keep a coaching job. You're gonna that's fireable.
Well, maybe he
stuff.
learned it, so maybe next year he won't.
Yeah, we'll
do that.
see about it. Like Brendan Staley didn't learn his lesson, and it took them 3 or 4 years to fire him. Like I'm surprised he wasn't gone a long time ago. So I mean, that's going to be the downfall of him.
I would take Dan Campbell 10 out of 10 times over Brendan Staley.
I would take him 12 times out of 10 before Brendan Staley. Like I'm not saying that Dan Campbell's a bad coach, but I just think that the coaches that have that mentality, look out, John Harbaugh, it's got him. Hardballs has got it a few times from that kind of stuff. Like just quit making poor decisions.
Right. If I'm the Commanders, I'm hiring Bieniemy as my head coach. I'm just going to take the shot on Bieniemy, and we'll say, look, I'm going to give you 2 years. Can you turn it around? Dan Campbell did it in 2 years. And I think the Lions were in worse shape than the Redskins might be. They're not even the Redskins, they're the Commanders, so they are in worse shape than them.
Which team do you think is going to take a shot on Steve Spagnuolo when he decides to go take another head coaching job?
Well, nobody, because there's no openings.
I'm just saying, when the time comes, somebody's going to go after that man.
What if the Commanders wait around and hire Spags?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Is that what they're doing? I know, are they dragging their feet?
He didn't have the greatest record with St. Louis, but at the same time, man, he's so good, and the players love him. And it's just like, and he's expressed interest in being a head coach again. So,
well, think about it. Head coach doesn't really matter. It does to a certain degree, but it's about the people you put around you. How good's your offensive coordinator? How good's your defensive coordinator? How good's everything around you? So yeah, Spags could be great as an or as a coach as long as he's not, hiring bad coordinators.
Well, I mean, any type of management in life, Mike, what do you want to do? You got to put good people around. You got to build the team around you, or you're only as good as your team, right? That goes with anything, whether you're managing a McDonald's or you're the head coach of a football team. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, You make a good point. But I think with nowadays the coaches that seem to do the best, example, Andy Reid, you have to be a player's coach these days, somewhat.
But that is when you come into a good situation. Like Reid already had a track record. He demanded respect when he came to the Chiefs. That's why he could flip it. He knew what he was doing. If you're a new coach, nobody knows you, nobody likes you, and the players look at you like, who are you? Especially Brendan Staley and these guys are coming in, they're like 30 years old. They're like, dude, half of our offensive line's older than you are, bro. Shut up. So I feel like to turn a bad franchise around, you got to be a hard ass.
Leave it to KY with the best comment of the day here.
He does. If you could put
in trouble too.
I'm not even gonna say the comment I was getting ready to do.
You keep that to yourself there.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson with another 5 bomb. We appreciate you, brother. He says, I think if we want to get a good what does it say? Wide receiver? My
Yeah.
contacts are getting blurry.
I was like, are you okay, Steve? The Ravens rubbing up
No,
on you?
my eyes are dry and I was like blinking and
I thought the Ravens were coming out and you can't read.
A good wide receiver, it has to be through free agency. I feel like teams aren't going to want to trade / play ball with the champs. That's 100%. I don't think teams want to play with the Chiefs at all in the last few years. I
Didn't
think
we
we've
say
seen
that last year? And a lot of people were like, that's stupid. People,
It's so true, though.
But I think it is. Why do you want to keep loading the Chiefs up?
I'm with you, man. I think that the Chiefs, I've been saying this, though. I think if the Chiefs want a big-time wide receiver, you have to go through free agency. You can't keep taking your chances on the draft. Rashee Rice is the best wide receiver by far they've got out of a draft. They don't evaluate wide receiver talent the greatest. I've said it over and over again. You got to go out and get a proven guy in free agency. Like, I think if you wanted to make the biggest splash and you had all the money in the world to spend and it didn't matter, which we don't, by the way, but if we did, Mike Evans, obviously. Like, that's the guy you would want to go after. That's the type of guy I think that would make the biggest difference in our offense if you're going that route. But I don't think the Chiefs will go that way.
I think the biggest money that we'll throw at a receiver, if we get rid of MVS, I'm so afraid that MVS showing up in the playoffs that they
might have $15 million next year. There's no way. If they pay that man $15 million over catching two passes,
Chiefs Kingdom, if not more than half, has already now acted as though MVS is all but just he's great again.
Of course they are, Mike, because he made 2 catches in the last game.
Right, but as a whole, the guy should not be on the team next year.
But
my point is this: if he's out, you can maybe go to that 11, 12, 13 million that you're paying him. That is going to be your cap. Are you going to get a top tier, top 3, 4 wide receiver free agent for 12 or 13 million per? I don't know. Definitely you're not going to get a Mike Evans at that number.
No, I think honestly, if they do go after a free agent wide receiver, I think it's going to be like, I don't want to call them mid-tier because I think they're some of the best receivers out there, but they're not going to be that like top tier. I think it's going to be more Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley, like those type of guys that are like game changers, but they're like under, the radar. They're not considered elite. Like Mike Evans, by all means, should be considered an elite receiver in the league. He's like the Travis Kelce of wide receivers. That's 1,000 yards a year, every year. That's what you're getting with him. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's where they'll be if they go with wide receiver and free agency.
Spot Track that does the contracts, they value Hollywood Brown.
Sport Track? Or is it called Spot Track?
No, there's no R in it. I always thought it was Sport Track, but it's Spot Track.
Me too.
It's weird.
Okay.
Anyway, they value him at 4 years, 59.5, 14.8 million a year for Hollywood Brown. So
see, that's quite a bit.
Right.
But
think about it. Hunter Renfrow signed a 2-year, 32.3 contract. That's 16 million per year for Hunter Renfrow.
Right, and you got to think MVS is due 15 million though. So I mean, we could get Hollywood Brown for what you would be due to pay MVS. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I don't know what you can maybe do. Maybe Veach could do something insane and pull off some kind of a weird trade and tag situation with like a what's his name from the Commanders, Terry McLaurin. That'd be a wild little draft.
You never know what they might be able to pull off. Roberto says MVS has to go Calvin Ridley. Man, I was a big proponent of getting Calvin Ridley when he was suspended.
Right,
Mike, we talked about that probably on a couple videos back in the day.
Yep.
I thought that was a perfect time to go after him. You get him low, and he's got such a high ceiling, and he showed out in Jacksonville. Granted, he's not like he's a smaller guy, so it's not like he's going to go take over a game a lot of the time. But there were games where he literally took games over with Trevor Lawrence. So,
right.
I think that'd be a great receiver for the Chiefs. I think it's a good target, but I hold him in the same tier as Hollywood Brown. Like they kind of seem the same to me, somewhat. So, I mean, that's probably about the tier they would go if they even go in free agency. Because we were talking about they have 24 players to sign or not. They got a lot of stuff going on, and big ones too, like Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed. Like, there's a lot of decisions to be made. I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And it's going to be even more interesting off season if we're celebrating the Super Bowl the whole time. So I mean, that'll make it better no matter what.
Yeah.
Appreciate the 2. I got another 2 from Flapjack City. Says, name 5 rookie wide receivers in the draft you want. Oh, well, let's do that. I like a lot of people are big on Odunze from Washington. I do like him.
Right. Yeah, I'll name him. I'll say that's one.
I'll do that. Is it Keon Coleman, the guy from Florida State? That's the guy I like.
Yeah, Coleman's 6'4", 215-ish. So he's a big X wide receiver. I mean, if you're not going to use Rashee Rice in the X, then maybe that's a guy you look at.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, everybody, if you start talking about the draft this year, the first thing that comes to mind is Marvin Harrison Jr. That's impossible. Probably Malik Neighbors from LSU.
Yeah, he's
not going to happen.
Well, Duze's probably going to be impossible.
Romain Duze's probably impossible. Man, honestly, if we had to name 5 that we think the Chiefs could get, I'm going Keon Coleman. I don't even know if he'll drop that low, but he might. Let's see. Who else?
I like Troy Franklin out of Oregon. I think he's got potential. He's very very good. Like, he's smooth getting to his top speed. So he's a nice vertical threat. I think that could bring the deep ball back. That could be something we could use to maybe replace an MVS. I actually like Des Walker out of North Carolina. I think he's not too bad from the tape I've watched.
Yeah, Devontae Walker. Yeah, I think I like him a lot too. The only thing that scares me is being a North Carolina guy.
Well, yeah, it's that, but it's like he looks like some of the film I've watched, because he is the only wide receiver I've watched so far. Steve caught me watching his film probably like a week and a half ago, and I told him this was the only film I'd watched. I started with Des Walker out of all people randomly. But yeah, he's a big guy. But he just looks so raw, and like he was so inconsistent. It's like he has so much to learn. He's almost like Rashee Rice
with
times
4.4 speed, though. So it's like
right. But you know how it took Rashee Rice a lot of the season just to figure out, right? It'll take Des Walker 2 years at that pace, unless he can really dig in and do it. But he's great. And then a sleeper kind of guy that was kind of low for me. But I watched him all year long, and I'm almost positive this cat's going to go up the draft boards for X wide receivers. Xavier
You're going
to
say who I'm going to say. Oh, okay, never mind.
You're talking about the guy from South Carolina? Yeah, out of South Carolina. I think he's like 6'3", 220-ish. And, dude, he'll go up and catch the ball. He has got an excellent catch point, and he can go yards after the catch like crazy for a guy his size. So, again, that's if the Chiefs want to go that route, and we always want them to draft that. But what do?
Well,
5'8", 180-pound guy.
There's a guy that sticks out to me a little bit, and like I said, I haven't got to dive in and watch a whole lot of tape yet. So that's definitely something we're going to do after the Super Bowl. But just on paper, Brendan Rice from USC, he's 6'3", runs a 4.38. Like 6'3", 212, runs a 4.38. That's somebody that, I mean, anybody with speed, game-changing speed like that, that Reed and them's going to be taking a look at them.
Yeah, they'll be looking at people like that, but I'm telling you, they draft to fit a mold. So Xavier Worthy out of Texas is probably like top of their draft board right now. The dude's 170-something pounds, and I guarantee you he's probably at the top of their board. Like,
Mike,
we have
I don't
a type.
know. All I know is after we evaluate these receivers, they seriously do need to consider taking us out to dinner and hearing what we have to say. Because last year, if it was up to me and you, they would have had Puka Nacua and what's his name from Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
Trey Palmer. Yeah, and both of them had excellent rookie seasons. Obviously, Puka.
Well, you couldn't have took both. You'd have had to just take one, because we did think
Puka
think that Rashee Rice was worth the pick.
When did Puka actually go in the draft?
He went like 6th round.
Right, and I think Trey Palmer ended up going
Palmer went the 7th, round. I believe, didn't he?
No.
Oh, I thought he went super late.
Either I projected him in the 3rd round, or he went in the 3rd round. He went to the Bucks, and he's had a very good year. See, that's another guy with that speed that I figured they would like, because he ran a 4.3. Eric Olson asked, where does Romeo Dunze fall? I think he's probably third receiver off the board.
But he
So
could
just
work himself up. He could also slide, but he could work himself up too. Steve, Trey Palmer was drafted pick number 191 in the 6th round, the same round.
Dang.
That's what I said. Like,
See, I had him in a 3rd round pick.
right.
People are crazy. How do they miss these guys? It's like, it's so obvious sometimes. And it's just like, I don't get it.
I don't know. Man, I got to bail out, though. I got to go
All right.
to work. This boy's got to go to work. But I appreciate you guys being here with us. Like, we held about 160 strong tonight. That's great on a Wednesday and a bye week.
On a Wednesday evening. I couldn't even get on here later.
Wednesday and a bye week. Appreciate you guys being here. Hit that like button for us. We ain't even said that throughout the whole thing. Hit the daggone like button. Drive these likes up. Subscribe if you haven't. We're trying to sneak our way to 25K. We set 20K as the mark, but we passed it, and we're like, hey, let's have a little Super Bowl surprise. 25K. So be sure to hit that sub button. Steve, you got anything left for the ACU crew?
I don't appreciate you guys that donated today, and all the members. Appreciate you guys. Be on the lookout for members only live stream. It'll be coming up very soon. We're going to try to do it. We're talking about doing it the first Thursday, which would be tomorrow. So that's more than likely not going to happen on the first.
We might do the 2nd Thursday.
But yeah, we're going to be doing that within the first week of February. So be on the lookout for that.
Right.
But appreciate you guys being here, and we're in the Super Bowl. And we're going to go win that thing. That's all I got to say.
Super Bowl, baby. You guys have a good night. Hit that like button. Go Chiefs.
There goes a sight from my soul.